their posts, abandoning their oaths, abandoning their queen. Tejo stood alone in the corridor. The assassins stopped. They looked at other assassins move closer. There were 8 of them left. The battle with the guards had cost them 4, but they did not seem to care. They walked slowly, their black armor making soft sounds with each step. Their weapons dripped with blue blood from the fallen Kelmari soldiers. Tejo stood in front of the queen's door. The blade in his hand was heavy. It was made for Drothian hands, thick and curved and designed for creatures much stronger than him. He had to hold it with both hands just to keep it steady. The lead assassin stopped a few meters away. He was taller than the others, and his mask had red marks on it that looked like tears of blood. When he spoke, his voice was calm and almost friendly. "You are brave, human. I will give you that. But bravery means nothing against skill. Put down the blade. Walk away. I will let you live." Tejo did not move. His arms were already starting to shake from the weight of the sword. His legs felt weak. Every part of his body was telling him to run, to hide, to survive. But he thought about the queen behind that door. He thought about the smile she had given him in the corridor. He thought about his grandfather's words. "No," he said again. The assassin sighed. It was a tired sound, like a teacher dealing with a stubborn child. "Very well. Kill him." One of the assassins stepped forward. He was smaller than the others, but he moved with a grace that made him look like he was dancing. His blade was thin and long, made for speed rather than power. He twirled it once, twice, showing off. Then he attacked. The strike came so fast that Tejo barely saw it. He moved on instinct, throwing his body to the side. The blade missed his face by less than a finger width. He felt the wind of it pass his cheek. He swung his own sword in response. It was clumsy and slow, nothing like the smooth movements of his enemy. The assassin stepped back easily, avoiding the strike without effort. "Interesting," the assassin said. "You have good instincts, human. But instincts are not enough." He attacked again. This time, Tejo was not fast enough. The blade cut across his arm, opening a long wound that immediately began to bleed. The pain was sharp and hot, like someone had pressed a burning iron against his skin. Tejo stumbled back. He hit the door behind him, the queen's door. He could feel the solid wood against his back, could feel how thin the barrier was between him and the woman he was trying to protect. The assassin raised his blade for the killing blow, and then the door opened. Queen Valithra stood in the doorway. She wore her white robes, and her dark eyes were calm. In her hand, she held a small device that looked like a silver tube. "Stop," she said. The assassins froze. Even the one about to kill Tejo paused, his blade hanging in the air. "My queen," the lead assassin said. He bowed slightly, though there was mockery in the gesture. "We have come for you. There is no escape. Your guards have fled. Your defenses have fallen. Accept your fate with dignity." Valithra looked at him. Then she looked at Tejo, bleeding and shaking and still holding his sword. "Who are you?" she asked him. "Tejo, my queen. A servant, a servant." She said the word slowly, like she was tasting it. "And why are you here, Tejo? Why did you not flee with the others?" Tejo thought about the question. It was a good question. He was not sure he knew the answer himself. "Because someone had to stay," he said. The queen looked at him for a long moment. Something passed across her face, something that might have been surprise or respect or sadness. Then she turned back to the assassins. "You are right," she told them. "My guards have fled. My defenses have fallen. I have nothing left except this." She held up the silver tube. "Do you know what this is?" The lead assassin shook his head. "It is called a dead hand device. It is connected to the power core of this palace. If I activate it, This entire building will be destroyed. Everything within a kilometer will be vaporized, including all of us. The assassins looked at each other. Taeho felt his stomach drop. He had not expected this. You would kill yourself? The lead assassin asked. You would destroy your own palace, your own servants, just to stop us? Yes, the queen said. If I must die tonight, I will not die alone. I will take you with me. All of you. And the Brotherhood will lose 12 of its best warriors for nothing. There was a long silence. Taeho could hear his own heartbeat, loud and fast in his ears. He could hear the soft hum of the palace systems, the distant sound of alarms still crying out in the night. The lead assassin laughed. It was a cold laugh, without any joy in it. You are bluffing, he said. Queens do not sacrifice themselves. They are too important, too precious. You will not press that button. Try me, Valithra said, another silence. The assassins looked at their leader, waiting for orders. Taeho watched the queen, watched her hand holding the silver tube, watched her face for any sign of doubt or fear. He saw none. Perhaps, the lead assassin said slowly, we can make a deal. Give us the human. Let us kill him in front of you. A small death to prove we have accomplished something tonight. Then we will leave and return another day. Valithra did not look at Taeho. She kept her eyes on the assassin. No? She said, no? This human stayed when everyone else ran. He stood at my door with a sword too heavy for his hands, ready to die for a queen who had never even spoken his name. I will not trade his life for mine. The lead assassin tilted his head. Interesting. You would die for a servant? He was willing to die for me. How can I do any less? Taeho felt something strange in his chest. It was warm and tight, and it made his eyes sting with tears he refused to let fall. No one had ever said anything like that about him before. No one had ever thought he was worth anything. Then we are at a standstill, the assassin said. We cannot kill you without dying ourselves. You cannot kill us without dying as well. What do you propose? Leave, Valithra said. Leave now, and I will let you live. Return to your brotherhood. Tell them that the Queen of the Kalmari Empire does not fear death. Tell them that if they want to kill me, they must be willing to die with me. The assassins looked at each other again. There was a low murmur among them, words in a language Taeho did not understand. We cannot leave without completing our mission, the lead assassin said. The Brotherhood does not accept failure. Then die here, Valithra said. Your choice. More murmuring. More looks exchanged. Taeho watched them, watched their body language, tried to read their intentions. They were thinking about it. They were actually thinking about leaving, and then one of the assassins in the back spoke up. She is bluffing, he said. I can see it in her eyes. She does not want to die. She is afraid. The lead assassin turned to look at him. Are you sure? Yes, I have studied her for months. She values her life too much. She will not press that button. There was a moment of decision. Taeho could feel it, like the air before a storm. Everything was balanced on the edge of a knife, ready to fall one way or the other. The lead assassin nodded. Kill them both. The assassins moved. Taeho did not think. He grabbed the queen and pulled her behind him, placing his body between her and the attackers. His sword came up, not to attack, but to defend. He knew he could not win. He knew he would die in the next few seconds. But maybe, just maybe, he could buy the queen enough time to press that button. The first blade came for his throat. He blocked it, but the force of the blow nearly knocked the sword from his hands. Another blade came from the left, and he twisted to avoid it. The movement opened up his back, and he felt a sharp pain as a third blade cut across his spine. He fell to one knee. Blood was everywhere now. His blood. He could feel it running down his arms, his back, pooling on the floor beneath him, but he did not fall. He pushed himself back up, swinging his sword in a wide arc that forced the assassin's back for just a moment. "Press the button," he said to the queen. "Do it now." Valithra looked at him. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking. She looked at the device in her hands, looked at the assassins surrounding them, looked at the human who was dying to protect her. "I cannot," she whispered. "I cannot kill everyone in the palace. The servants, the workers, the innocent people." "Then run," Tejo said. "There must be another way out. A secret passage. Something. Run, and I will hold them. You will die. I am already dying." He coughed, and blood came out of his mouth. "Oh, please, let me do this one thing. Let me matter." The queen's eyes filled with tears. She reached out and touched his face, a gentle touch, softer than anything he had felt in years. "You matter," she said. "You have always mattered." Then she turned and ran. There was a hidden door in the back of her chamber, a passage that led deep into the mountain behind the palace. It was a secret known only to the royal family, a last escape route in case of emergency. The assassins tried to follow her, but Tejo was in their way. He stood in the doorway, his sword raised, his body broken but still fighting. The first assassin who tried to pass him lost his hand. The second lost his life, Tejo's blade finding a gap in his armor and piercing his throat. "Kill him?" The lead assassin shouted. "Kill him now." They came at him all at once. Blades flashing, bodies moving, death reaching out with 100 hands. Tejo fought. He was not skilled. He was not trained. He was not strong. But he was angry, and he was determined, and he refused to fall. Every time they knocked him down, he got ba. The palace of the Kelmari Empire stood tall against the purple sky of Velith Prime. Its towers reached up like silver fingers, and its walls were made of stone that had lasted for 10,000 years. Inside those walls lived Queen Valithra, ruler of 63 worlds and commander of the greatest fleet in the known galaxy. On this night, the queen sat in her private chamber. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were large and dark like two black moons. She wore a simple robe of white silk, and her long fingers held a cup of warm tea. She liked these quiet moments. The day had been long, filled with meetings and arguments and decisions that would change the lives of millions. A soft knock came at her door. "Enter," she said. The door opened, and her chief advisor walked in. His name was Gorath, and he was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms. He had served the royal family for over 200 years. "My queen," Gorath said. His voice was low and worried. "We have received a message from our spies in the outer systems." Valithra set down her cup. She had learned long ago that when Gorath looked worried, she should listen carefully. "Speak," she said. "The Brotherhood of the Fallen Star. They have sent assassins. Our spies say they left 3 days ago. They will arrive here within hours." The queen did not show fear. She had been raised to hide her feelings, to present a calm face even when her heart raced. But inside she felt a cold hand grip her chest. The Brotherhood of the Fallen Star was not like other enemies. They were fanatics. They believed that the Kelmari Empire had grown too powerful, that it needed to fall for the galaxy to be free. They had tried to kill her father. They had succeeded in killing her uncle. And now they were coming for her. "How many?" she asked. "Our spies say 12. 12 of their best." Valithra closed her eyes. 12 assassins from the Brotherhood meant 12 of the most dangerous killers in the galaxy. Each one trained from childhood. Each one willing to die for their cause. "Call the guards," she said. "All of them. I want every entrance sealed. I want every shadow watched." Gorath bowed. "It will be done, my queen." He left quickly, and Valithra sat alone with her thoughts. She wondered if this would be her last night. She wondered if all her plans and dreams would end here, in this palace that had stood for 10,000 years, dotting the guard quarters below the palace. The message spread like fire through dry grass. Assassins were coming. The Brotherhood of the Fallen Star. Every guard who heard the news felt their stomach tighten. The palace guard was made up of warriors from across the empire. There were Kalmari soldiers, tall and blue and proud. There were Drothian mercenaries, their bodies covered in thick scales that could stop a blade. There were Vexury fighters, small and quick and deadly with their twin swords. And there were others, warriors from a dozen different worlds, all chosen for their skill and their courage. But there was also one human. His name was Teho, and he was not really a guard. He was a servant, a low-ranking worker who cleaned floors and carried messages and did whatever small tasks the real guards did not want to do. He had come to the palace 3 years ago, part of a diplomatic exchange between the Kalmari Empire and the human colonies. The humans had sent him as a gift, a gesture of friendship. The Kalmari had accepted him because it would have been rude to refuse. No one expected much from him. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. They were weak compared to most species. They lived short lives. They had no natural weapons, no claws or scales or venom. The other servants laughed at him. The guards ignored him. To everyone in the palace, Teho was nothing more than a curiosity, a small creature from a small world that had somehow stumbled into the stars. Teho heard the news about the assassins while he was cleaning the floor outside the armory. 2 Drothian guards were talking, their deep voices carrying through the stone hallway. 12 of them, one said. 12 Brotherhood killers. I heard the captain is putting everyone on alert, the other replied. Every entrance, every window, every shadow. Do you think we can stop them? There was a long pause. I do not know. The Brotherhood does not fail often. They are patient. They are skilled. And they do not fear death. Teho kept cleaning. He moved his brush across the floor in slow circles, but his mind was racing. He had heard stories about the Brotherhood of the Fallen Star. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. They were the boogeyman, the monster in the darkness, the nightmare that came for kings and queens and emperors. And they were coming here. Tonight. He thought about the queen. He had never spoken to her directly. He had seen her a few times, walking through the halls with her advisors, her white robes flowing behind her. She seemed kind. She did not look at servants with disgust like some nobles did. Once, she had even smiled at him when they passed in a corridor. It was a small thing, but Teho had remembered it. She was a good queen. That was what everyone said. She worked hard for her people. She tried to bring peace to a galaxy that had known too much war. She did not deserve to die at the hands of fanatics. But what could he do? He was just a servant. He had no weapons, no training, no power. If the Brotherhood came, he would be nothing more than an obstacle, a body to step over on their way to their target. He finished cleaning the floor and walked back to his small room in the servant quarters. It was a tiny space, just big enough for a bed and a small table. On the table sat a picture of his mother, back on Earth. She had cried when he left. She had said she was proud of him, but she was also afraid. The galaxy was big and dangerous, and her son was going so far away. Teho sat on his bed and looked at the picture. He wondered what his mother would think if she knew what was happening. She would probably tell him to hide. She would tell him to stay safe, to let the guards handle it, to not be a hero. But something in his chest would not let him rest. Something hot and heavy that pressed against his ribs and made it hard to breathe. It was not quite fear, though fear was part of it. It was something else. Something deeper. He thought about his grandfather. The old man had been a soldier, long ago, back when Earth still had wars. He had told Tejo stories when he was young. Stories about battles and courage and sacrifice. Stories about men who stood when others ran, who fought when others fled, who gave everything so that others might live. When the moment comes, his grandfather had said, you will know what kind of man you are. You will know if you are the kind who runs or the kind who stands. Tejo had never understood those words. He had never been in a moment like that. He had lived a quiet life, first on Earth and then here in the palace. He had never faced death. He had never been tested. But tonight, the test was coming. The alarm started an hour before midnight. Loud and sharp, they cut through the silence of the palace like knives. Guards ran through the corridors, their weapons ready, their faces hard. Servants hid in their rooms, praying to whatever gods they believed in. Tejo did not hide. He walked toward the queen's chamber, moving against the flow of running bodies. Guards pushed past him. Servants looked at him like he was crazy. But he kept walking. He did not have a weapon. He did not have armor. He had nothing but the clothes on his back and the fire in his chest. But he kept walking. When he reached the corridor outside the queen's chamber, he found a group of guards standing in formation. There were 20 of them. Drothians and Kalmari and Vexari, all the best warriors the palace had. Their captain, a large Kalmari named Sorth, stood at the front. He was giving orders, his voice loud and commanding. Hold this position, Sorth said. Nothing gets through, nothing. The guards nodded. They looked brave. They looked ready. Tejo stood at the back, watching. No one noticed him. No one cared about the human servant who had wandered into the wrong place. He was invisible, as he had always been. And then the lights went out. The darkness was complete. The kind of darkness that pressed against your eyes and made you feel like you were drowning in black water. Someone screamed. Someone fired a weapon, and the flash lit up the corridor for a brief moment. In that flash, Tejo saw them, the assassins. They moved like shadows, like smoke, like death itself given form. They wore black armor that seemed to drink in the light. Their faces were hidden behind masks that showed only their eyes. Cold and empty and terrible. The battle lasted less than a minute. The guards fought. They fought with everything they had. But the assassins were faster, stronger, more deadly than anyone had expected. They moved through the guards like water through sand, their blades flashing, their movements perfect. When the emergency lights flickered on, half the guards were dead. The rest were wounded, bleeding, crawling away from the carnage. Captain Sorth was on the ground, his chest torn open, his eyes staring at nothing. And the assassins were still coming. Tejo pressed himself against the wall. His heart was pounding so hard, he thought it might break through his ribs. He watched as the surviving guards looked at each other. He watched as they made their calculations. He watched as, one by one, they realized the truth. They could not win. The first guard to run was a Drothian. He simply turned and walked away, his scaled face showing no shame. Then another ran. And another. Within seconds, every surviving guard had fled into the darkness of the palace, abandoning. The medical bay of the royal palace was the most advanced in the entire empire. It had machines that could rebuild broken bones in hours. It had chemicals that could grow new skin in days. It had technology that could bring people back from the very edge of death. Tejo needed all of it. The doctors worked on him for 3 days. They replaced the blood he had lost. They repaired the damage to his spine. They fixed his eye, though it would never see quite as well as before. They sealed his wounds, healed his cuts, and put his broken body back together piece by piece. On the 4th day, he woke up. The first thing he saw was white. White ceiling, white walls, white sheets on his bed. For a moment, he thought he was dead. He thought this was what came after, a place of endless white where nothing hurt anymore. Then he felt the pain, and he knew he was still alive. It was not a sharp pain. The doctors had given him medicine for that. It was a deep pain, a tired pain, the kind of pain that came from a body that had been pushed too far and was angry about it. He tried to sit up. A gentle hand pressed him back down. "Rest," a voice said. "You are not ready to move yet." Tejo turned his head. Queen Valithra sat beside his bed. She wore simple clothes, nothing like the royal robes he had seen before. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, and her dark eyes were red from lack of sleep. "My queen," he said. His voice was rough and weak. "You should not be here. It is not safe. The assassins are gone. They fled when the reinforcements arrived. The palace is secure." She smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I should be asking why you are here, why you did what you did." Tejo closed his eyes. He remembered the fight, the blood, the pain. He remembered the assassin's blade rising for the killing blow. He remembered thinking that he was going to die. "I do not know," he said honestly. "I did not think about it. I just acted. You fought 8 assassins. You killed 2 of them. You held them off long enough for me to escape." Valithra shook her head. "The best warriors in my guard could not do what you did." "How is that possible?" "I do not know," Tejo said again. "I am not a warrior. I am not trained. I am just a servant who did not want to run." The queen was quiet for a long moment. She looked at him like she was trying to solve a puzzle, like he was a mystery she could not understand. "The doctors say you should have died," she said. "The wounds you received were too severe. You lost too much blood. By every medical measure, you should have died in that corridor. But you did not. You held on. You survived. I did not want to die. Nobody wants to die. But wanting to live is not enough. There has to be something more. Something that keeps the body going when the body should stop." She leaned closer. "What is it, Tejo? What made you survive?" Tejo thought about the question. He thought about the fight, about the moment when he should have given up, but did not. He thought about the anger in his chest, the fire that had burned even when everything else was fading. "I think," he said slowly, "I was too stubborn to die. I kept thinking that I could not fall, not yet, not until you were safe. And somehow, my body listened." Valithra laughed softly. "Stubbornness. That is what kept you alive. Stubbornness. My grandfather used to say that stubbornness was the only gift humans had. We are not strong like other species. We are not fast. We do not have claws or scales or venom. But we are stubborn. We do not give up. We do not accept defeat. We keep going long after we should have stopped. Your grandfather sounds like a wise man. He was a soldier. He fought in many wars back on Earth. He told me that the most dangerous enemy is not the strongest one or the fastest one. It is the one who refuses to quit." The queen nodded slowly. "I think I understand now. I think I understand why the galaxy does not know what to make of humans." "What do you mean?" "Your species is new to the stars. You have only been traveling between worlds for 50 years. Most other species have been doing it for thousands. They look at you and see a young race, a weak race, a race that has not proven itself." She paused. "But they are wrong. They do not see what I saw in that corridor. They do not understand what you are capable of." Tejo did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as special. He had never thought of humans as special. They were just people, trying to survive in a galaxy full of older and stronger species. "The guards who fled," he said. "What happened to them?" Valithra's face hardened. "They have been arrested. All of them. They abandoned their posts. They broke their oaths. They left their queen to die. They will be tried for treason. Will they be executed? Perhaps. The law is clear about such things. A guard who abandons their post in time of danger forfeits their life. She looked away. But I find myself questioning that law. I find myself wondering if it is fair to punish people for being afraid. Fear is not the problem, Tejo said. I was afraid too. I was more afraid than I have ever been in my life. But I stayed anyway. Then, what is the problem? The problem is choice. The guards chose to run. They chose to save themselves instead of protecting you. Fear did not make that choice. They did. Valithra looked at him. You really believe that? Yes. My grandfather taught me that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite fear. Everyone feels fear. But not everyone lets fear control them. The queen was quiet again. She seemed to be thinking deeply about something. Finally, she spoke. What do you want, Tejo? What do you mean? You saved my life. You nearly died protecting me. In the Kalmari Empire, such a debt must be repaid. So I am asking you, what do you want? Land? Money? A title? Name it, and it is yours. Tejo thought about it. He thought about the small room he had been living in, the tiny bed and the single table with his mother's picture. He thought about the years of being ignored, being laughed at, being treated like nothing. He could ask for anything. He could become rich and powerful. He could live in luxury for the rest of his life. But that was not what he wanted. I want to stay, he said. Stay? Here, in the palace. As a guard. Valithra blinked. You want to be a guard? After what happened? Because of what happened. The guards ran because they did not believe in what they were protecting. They did not care about you or the Empire. They only cared about themselves. Tejo met her eyes. I want to show them what it means to serve. I want to show them what loyalty really looks like. The queen studied him for a long moment. Then a smile spread across her face, a real smile this time, one that reached her eyes. You are a strange creature, Tejo. You asked for the chance to face more danger, more pain, more opportunities to die. Any other person would ask for safety and comfort. I am not any other person. I am human. Valithra stood up. She looked down at him with an expression that he could not quite read. Respect, maybe. Or curiosity. Or something else entirely. Very well, she said. When you are healed, you will become a member of the Royal Guard. Not a servant anymore. Not someone who cleans floors and carries messages. A true guard, with all the rights and duties that come with it. Thank you, my queen. Do not thank me yet. Being a guard is hard. The training is brutal. The expectations are high. Many people fail. I will not fail. No, Valithra said softly. I do not think you will. She walked to the door, then stopped and looked back at him. There is one more thing. The assassins who escaped. They will come back. The Brotherhood does not forgive failure, and they do not forget their targets. They will try again. I know. Are you not afraid? Tejo thought about it. He thought about the assassin's blade, the pain of his wounds, the darkness that had swallowed him at the end of the fight. Yes, he said. I am afraid. But I will be here when they come. I will be ready. Valithra smiled again. Good. Then rest now. Heal. Grow strong. Because when they return, I want you standing at my side. She left, and Tejo was alone with his thoughts. He looked at the white ceiling, listened to the soft hum of the medical machines, and let himself feel something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. For 3 years, he had been nothing. A servant. A curiosity. A creature that others looked down upon. He had accepted it because he thought he had no choice. He thought that was all he could ever be. But now everything had changed. He had proven himself. He had shown the galaxy what a human could do. And he had been given a chance to become something more. He closed his eyes and let sleep take him. His body needed rest. It needed time to heal, time to recover from the damage it had suffered. But his spirit was already awake. It was already burning with a fire that would not go out. The assassins would come back. The Brotherhood would try again. And when they did, Tejo would be waiting not as a servant, not as a victim, but as a guardian, a protector, a human who refused to run. 6 months passed. Tejo trained every day. He woke before the sun rose and went to the training grounds where the royal guards practiced. He ran until his legs burned. He lifted weights until his arms shook. He fought with swords and spears in his bare hands until his body was covered in bruises. The other guards watched him. At first they laughed. A human trying to become a royal guard was like a fish trying to climb a mountain. It was impossible. It was foolish. It was a waste of everyone's time. But Tejo did not care about their laughter. He kept training after the first month. The laughter stopped. The guards saw how hard he worked, how much pain he pushed through, how many times he got knocked down and got back up. They began to watch him with different eyes. Not respect, exactly. Not yet. But something close to it. After the second month, some of them started helping him. A Drothian named Krell showed him how to use his small size as an advantage, how to slip between larger opponents and strike at their weak points. A Vexary named Issa taught him the basics of their twin-blade style, modified for human hands and human speed. After the third month, Tejo won his first training match. His opponent was a young Kalmari, fresh from the military academy, who thought fighting a human would be easy. The match lasted less than a minute. Tejo used a move Krell had taught him, ducking under the Kalmari's swing and striking at his knee. The young soldier fell, and Tejo's blade was at his throat before he could recover. The training ground went silent. Then Krell started laughing, a deep booming sound that echoed off the walls. "Well done, human," he said. "Well done." After that, the other guards started treating Tejo like one of them. They invited him to eat with them in the mess hall. They shared stories and jokes with him. They stopped seeing him as a curiosity and started seeing him as a fellow warrior. But not everyone was happy about it. Tejo's Rise. Commander Varath was the head of the Royal Guard. He was a Kalmari, old and scarred from decades of service. He had been against Tejo joining the Guard from the beginning. He believed that humans were too weak, too short-lived, too fragile to protect the Queen. Varath never said this directly to Tejo. He did not need to. His contempt was clear in every look, every word, every order he gave. He assigned Tejo the worst duties. Night watch in the coldest parts of the palace. Patrols through the most dangerous sections of the city. Training exercises designed to break him. Tejo did them all without complaint. He stood watch in the freezing tower rooms until ice formed on his armor. He walked through neighborhoods where criminals looked at him like prey. He survived training exercises that left him bleeding and exhausted. And every time Varath expected him to fail, he did not fail. "Why do you keep trying?" Varath asked him one day. They were alone in the commander's office, and Varath's voice was cold with anger. "You do not belong here. You will never be as strong as a Drothian or as fast as a Vexary. You will never be a real guard." Tejo looked at him calmly. "I am not trying to be a Drothian or a Vexary. I am trying to be the best human I can be. And what good is that? When the next threat comes, when the Brotherhood returns, what will you do? Stand in their way and get cut down like before?" "If I must." Varath slammed his fist on the desk. "You nearly died. You were in the medical bay for a month. The only reason you survived was luck." "It was not luck," Tejo said. "It was will. I willed myself to live." I willed myself to keep fighting. And I will do it again if I have to. Vorith stared at him. His blue face was twisted with frustration. You are insane. You humans are all insane. Maybe, Tahoe said. But we are your allies now. And allies do not abandon each other. The commander had no answer for that. He waved his hand, dismissing Tahoe from his office. Tahoe left, but he knew that Vorith would keep testing him, keep pushing him, keep waiting for him to fail. That was fine. Tahoe was used to being underestimated. He had been underestimated his entire life. The months continued to pass. Tahoe grew stronger. His body adapted to the training, building muscle and endurance that surprised even the doctors. His skills improved until he could hold his own against guards who had been training for years. But it was not just his body that changed. His mind changed too. He learned to read people. He learned to see the small movements that showed when someone was lying or hiding something. He learned to listen to the silence between words, to hear what people did not say. Queen Valithra noticed. She began calling him to her chambers for conversations that had nothing to do with his duties. She asked him about Earth, about humans, about the strange species that had come to the stars so recently. Tell me about your wars, she said one evening. They were sitting in her private garden, surrounded by flowers from a dozen different worlds. Tahoe thought about the question. Which ones? We have had many. The worst ones. The ones that nearly destroyed you. He told her about the world wars, about millions of people dying in trenches and cities and concentration camps, about weapons that could destroy entire cities in a single flash, about the Cold War that had followed when the entire planet had lived under the shadow of destruction for decades. Valithra listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Your species almost ended itself, she said finally. Multiple times. How did you survive? We talked. We made agreements. We built systems to prevent war. That simple? Tahoe shook his head. No, it was not simple at all. It took generations. Many people did not believe it was possible. Many people tried to start new wars. But enough of us wanted peace. Enough of us were willing to work for it. And now? Is Earth at peace? Mostly. There are still problems. There are still conflicts. But we have not had a major war in over a century. Valithra smiled, but there was sadness in it. The Kalmari have been fighting for 10,000 years. We have conquered worlds and lost worlds. We have killed billions and lost billions. And still we fight. Why? Because we do not know how to stop. Because our empire was built on war, and we do not know how to exist without it. She looked at him with her dark eyes. Perhaps that is why humans interest me. You have learned something that we have not. You have learned how to choose peace. It is not easy, Tahoe said. Peace requires more courage than war. It requires admitting that you might be wrong. It requires trusting enemies. It requires believing that tomorrow can be better than today. And you believe that? That tomorrow can be better? Tahoe thought about his grandfather, about the wars he had fought and the peace he had helped build, about the world he had left for his children and grandchildren. Yes, he said. I believe it. Because I have seen it. Because humans have proven it. We were killing each other for thousands of years. We built weapons that could destroy the world. And then we stopped. We chose to stop. How? What made you stop? Tahoe was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that his grandfather had told him long ago. We got tired of burying our children. We got tired of watching our sons and daughters die for causes they did not understand. We got tired of hate and anger and revenge. And finally, we decided that enough was enough. Valithra did not respond. She just looked at him, and Tahoe could see tears forming in her dark eyes. I am tired too, she whispered. I am so tired. Tejo reached out and took her hand. It was a bold thing to do. He was a guard, and she was a queen. There were rules about such things, protocols that had existed for centuries, but in that moment, she was not a queen. She was just a person, carrying a weight that was too heavy for anyone to carry alone. Then rest, he said. Let others carry the burden for a while. You do not have to do everything yourself. Who else is there? My advisors want power. My generals want war. My enemies want me dead. Who can I trust? Trust me, Tejo said. Trust the people who stood when others ran. Trust the ones who would die for you. Valithra looked at him. A tear ran down her blue cheek. Why do you care so much? She asked. Why does a human servant care about a Kelmari queen? Tejo thought about all the answers he could give. Political answers about alliance and duty. Practical answers about his job and his training. Safe answers that would not risk anything. But he had never been good at safe answers. Because you smiled at me, he said. Once, in a corridor, when no one else was watching. You smiled at me like I was a person, not a curiosity. Like I mattered. That is all? A single smile? That is everything. That is what makes a person worth protecting. Not their title, or their power, or their wealth. Just their kindness. Their humanity. He paused. Even if they are not human. Valithra laughed softly. It was a tired laugh, but there was warmth in it. You are strange, Tejo. You are the strangest creature I have ever met. I know, but you like strange. Yes, she said. I suppose I do. They sat together in the garden until the stars came out. They did not speak much. They did not need to. Sometimes presence was enough. Sometimes just knowing that you were not alone was all that mattered. And somewhere in the darkness, watching from the shadows, the Brotherhood of the Fallen Star was planning its return. 1 year after the first attack, the Brotherhood came again. They came at midnight, like before. But this time, there were 20 of them. 20 of their best assassins, twice as many as the first attempt. They came with new weapons and new tactics and a new leader. A woman whose name was whispered with fear across the galaxy. Her name was Kira, and she had never failed a mission. The palace alarm screamed through the night. Guards ran to their positions. Weapons were drawn. Everyone remembered what had happened the last time. Tejo was in his quarters when the alarm sounded. He was already dressed in his armor, already holding his sword. He'd been waiting for this night for months. He had known it was coming. He ran through the corridors toward the Queen's chamber. Other guards ran with him. Krell and Izza and a dozen others who had become his friends during the past year. They moved as a unit, their steps matching, their minds focused on a single goal: protect the Queen. They reached the corridor outside, her chamber just as the assassins arrived. 20 black shapes emerged from the shadows, their weapons gleaming in the emergency lights. At their head stood Kira, tall and thin, her mask showing only her cold eyes. So, she said, the human is still here. I thought you would have run by now. Tejo stepped forward. Behind him, the other guards formed a defensive line. They were ready. They had trained for this. I do not run, Tejo said. I thought your brotherhood would have learned that by now. Kira laughed. It was a sharp sound, like breaking glass. Brave words. But bravery is not enough. Last time, you faced 12 of us and nearly died. This time, there are 20. You cannot win. Maybe not. But I can make you bleed. Yes, Kira agreed. You probably can. That is why I brought a gift for you. She gestured, and 2 assassins stepped forward. Between them, they held a figure in chains. The figure was small and thin, with pale skin and dark hair. A human. Teo felt his blood turn cold. The chained human was a woman, young and frightened. Her face was bruised, and her clothes were torn. She looked at Teo with eyes full of terror. "We found her in your human colony," Kira said. "One of your people, far from home. Her name is Yuna. Would you like to know what we will do to her if you do not step aside?" Teo's hands tightened on his sword. He looked at the woman, at the fear in her eyes, at the chains around her wrists. "Let her go," he said. "She has nothing to do with this." "Of course she does. She is your weakness. Your attachment to your own kind." Kira tilted her head. "I have studied you, Teo. I know what motivates you. You do not fight for the Queen because of duty or loyalty. You fight because you believe in protecting the innocent. You cannot stand to see others suffer. And you think threatening an innocent woman will make me surrender? I think it will make you hesitate. And hesitation is death." Kira raised her blade. "Last chance. Step aside, and the woman lives. Fight us, and she dies screaming." Teo looked at Yuna. He looked at the assassins surrounding her. He looked at the guards behind him, waiting for his decision. Then he looked at the Queen's door. "Yuna," he said, keeping his voice calm, "are you a citizen of the human colonies?" The woman nodded, confused by the question. "Do you know what that means? Do you know what it means to be human?" She shook her head. "It means we do not surrender. It means we do not let evil win. It means we stand together, even when standing costs us everything." He met her eyes. "I am sorry. I cannot save you by giving up the Queen. But I promise you, I will make them pay for every hurt they have done to you." Yuna's eyes widened. Then, slowly understanding dawned on her face. Her fear did not disappear, but something else appeared alongside it. Something like pride. "Then fight," she said. Her voice was small but steady. "Fight for all of us." Kira sighed. "How touching." "Kill her." The assassin holding Yuna raised his blade, and Teo moved. He crossed the distance faster than he had ever moved before. His sword flashed, and the assassin holding Yuna fell back with a cry, his hand severed at the wrist. Teo grabbed Yuna and threw her toward the other guards, who caught her and pulled her to safety. Then the battle began. It was different from the first time. Teo was not alone. Krell fought beside him, his massive body crushing assassins like insects. Issa danced between enemies, her twin blades drawing blood with every strike. The other guards held the line, pushing back against the tide of black-armored killers. But the assassins were strong. They were fast. And there were so many of them. Taiho fought like a demon. Every skill he had learned, every trick he had mastered, every drop of training he had endured came together in that moment. He moved through the assassins like a blade through water, cutting, stabbing, killing. He lost count of how many he brought down. 5, 10, more, but they kept coming. And his strength was fading. Kira found him in the middle of the fight. She appeared out of nowhere, her blade aimed at his heart. He blocked it barely, and the force of the blow sent him stumbling back. "You are better than before," she said, "but still not good enough." They fought. Their blades clashed again and again, sparks flying in the dim light. Kira was faster than him, stronger, more skilled. But Teo had something she did not. He had a reason to win. He thought of Valithra waiting behind her door. He thought of Yuna, the innocent woman they had used as a weapon. He thought of his grandfather, who had taught him that courage was a choice. He thought of Earth, of his mother, of everyone who had ever believed in him, and he found strength he did not know he had. He caught Kira's blade with his own and twisted, sending her weapon spinning away into the darkness. Then he drove his sword forward, through the gap in her armor, into her chest. Kira looked down at the blade inside her. Then she looked up at Teo, How? She whispered. Because I had something to fight for, he said. And you only had hate. She fell. Her body hit the floor, and her eyes went dark. The remaining assassins saw their leader die. They saw their brothers and sisters falling around them. They saw the guards pushing forward, their ranks unbroken, and they ran. For the first time in the history of the Brotherhood of the Fallen Star, they retreated from a mission. They fled into the night, leaving their dead behind, leaving their honor behind. Tejo fell to his knees. His body was broken again, covered in cuts and burns and bruises. His sword dropped from his numb fingers. He looked at the corridor, at the bodies scattered across the floor, at the blood that covered everything they had won. The Queen's door opened. Valithra stepped out, her face pale but determined. She looked at the carnage around her, looked at the guards who had stayed and fought, looked at Tejo kneeling in the middle of it. She walked to him and knelt beside him. You stayed, she said. I told you I would. You nearly died. Again. No. She reached out and touched his face. The same way she had done a year ago in the medical bay. Her fingers were cool against his skin. Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep risking everything? Tejo looked at her. He looked at the woman he had sworn to protect, the Queen who had given him a chance when no one else would. He looked at her and knew, finally, what to say. Because you are worth it. Because this empire, this galaxy, this future we are building together is worth it. Because my grandfather taught me that some things are more important than survival. Valithra's eyes filled with tears. What things? Love, honor, hope. He smiled, despite the pain. The things that make us who we are. The things worth dying for. The Queen leaned forward and did something that no Kalmari ruler had ever done before. She kissed a human guard on the forehead. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for everything. In the months that followed, the story spread across the galaxy. The human who had stood against the Brotherhood. The servant who had become a guardian. The man who had saved the Queen of the Kalmari Empire not once, but twice. The human colonies celebrated him as a hero. The Kalmari honored him with titles and medals. Other species looked at humans with new eyes, seeing not weakness but a different kind of strength dawn, and in the palace on Veloth Prime, changes came. Commander Vorath retired in disgrace, replaced by a council of guards from different species. Humans were welcomed into the Royal Guard, trained alongside Drothians and Vexari and Kelmari. The old ways began to fade, replaced by something new. Tejo became the captain of the Queen's personal guard. It was a position of great honor, one that put him at Valithra's side every day. They walked together through the palace gardens. They talked about peace and war and the future of the galaxy. They became friends, and then something more. Some said it was wrong. A human and a Kalmari, so different, so impossible. But Tejo did not care what others said. He had learned that the universe was full of impossible things. Love across species was just one more. On the anniversary of the second attack, Tejo stood on the balcony of the palace and looked up at the stars. Valithra stood beside him, her hand in his. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Staying that first night? You could have run. You could have lived a safe, quiet life. Tejo shook his head. No, I do not regret it. That night, I found out who I really was. I found out what I could do when everything was against me. And what is that? He looked at her and smiled. I could stand when others ran. I could fight when others fled. I could be human. Valithra smiled back. And that is something special. Yes, Tejo said. It is the most special thing in the galaxy.